meeting's not.
Will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. First on tonight's agenda is a presentation on the 2020 census. I'd like to introduce Owen. Oh yes, let's do a roll call.
Mr. D'Andriano?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Here. Mr. Williams?
Here. Now that we know we're all here, I would like to introduce Owen Borda, right, from the U.S. Census.
Thank you for having me, and I know you have a really big agenda. I'll take just a few minutes of your time. The census actually starts, our decennial census starts tomorrow. Tomorrow, you'll start receiving in the mail invitations from the U.S. Census Bureau in a plain white envelope that's clearly marked U.S. Census Bureau, and it will have important information in it. Please do not throw this letter away. It will include information about how and where to complete your census and a 12-digit identifying number for your address that you will use to complete your census form. At this decennial census, you will answer your census online or by telephone are your primary ways of answering. You will have an opportunity once to answer it by paper, and then we have our traditional way of door knocking. So you'll go on to the computer, onto your computer, using your code number and the address that's provided, and you'll answer your 9 questions. It'll take between 6 and 11 minutes for each person in the household. We want to count every person once in the place where they are on April 1st or where they live most of the time. So this is an absolute count. This is a point in time study. This is not a statistically sampled study that has a fudge factor. If we don't count you, you don't get part of the census numbers that have 2 important issues for the next full 10 years. First, it's our representation in Washington, D.C. and at the state level. So if the town of Patterson's undercounted, as all of New York State might be undercounted, we lose representation in Washington. Last census we lost a person, the census before that we lost a person, the census before that New York lost a person because we're really bad at counting New Yorkers. So this year there's a huge effort going on to be sure we count everyone. The second thing that those numbers go toward are all the federal and state funding that come to the town of Patterson. That's school funding, that's funding for senior centers, that's funding for Meals on Wheels, that's funding for Medicaid, that's funding for food stamps, SNAP, the roads, anything that supports your ambulance that comes from the state or the federal government, all is based on this census. So there's an estimate that's out there that for every person who doesn't answer the census, a municipality loses $2,500 a year. That's 4 people is $1 million. That's a lot of money. So what do we need for you to do? We need for you to not be afraid. Everything that happens with the census is totally confidential under Article 13 of the federal statutes, and it says census workers cannot report or share any information they gather in the execution of their duty, and that everything that the Census Bureau collects is anonymous and completely used for statistical purposes only, and it will not be released for 72 years. That's 3 generations. In 72 years, my great-grandchildren maybe will be looking at my census data from this year, or they'll be buying it from someplace like Ancestry.com, and who knows 72 years from now how they'll be downloading that data. But so we don't share that data, and by law, no one has access to it in the federal government. The president, the INS, ICE, the IRS, social services, no one can get that data. So we're really interested in making the most out of this confidential issue. In order to be sure everyone has access to a computer or a telephone, we've worked with a number of locations to help that. The county is setting up opportunities at all of the senior centers for senior citizens to come together who are the least likely to have computer access and help them with trained census staff. We also have all of the libraries in the state have been supported by the state to help make it possible for you to go to a public library, have a librarian help you. There are 9 questions. We ask only your name, your relationship to the person who's in the house, the age, the sex, male or female, whether you own, rent your place of living and your telephone number, we will never, ever ask for your social security number, your INS number, your green card number, your bank account number. We will never ask you to make a political contribution, and we are not going to ask you any personal questions except for those 9 basic demographic questions. If someone asks you those questions, and we know these kinds of things are going around, I personally have seen this letter come through. Hi, I'm with XYZ company, and I'd love to help you fill out the census because it's very difficult. And if you just pay me $500 and give me your social security number, I will fill it out for you. Take that letter and bring it either to Consumer Affairs or the police department. That is illegal. The Census Bureau will not do that. We will also not call you on the phone and ask you any of that information. We do not do it. We don't want people to be ripped off. The least likely counted group of people that we know coming forward are children under the age of 5. In the last census, they were dramatically undercounted. That's a real issue for planning because you don't know kindergarten classrooms unless you know how many children there are between the ages of 0 and 5. And that also impacts WIC programs and everything about childcare and sub-funding for that. We know senior citizens are a particularly difficult group of people, A, because they're afraid of being ripped off, B, they're afraid of computers, C, they're often isolated alone in their home. So a group of people might come to the senior center, but if they're like my mom, she thinks they're all old people and she never goes. So she sits at home. And we need the help of everybody in the community to reach out to your neighbors and friends to be sure they answer. And then, of course, the third group of people that are difficult to count are people who are here that are not documented or marginally documented from whatever country they come. Parts of right in the Hudson Valley, you might be Polish, you might be Guatemalan, you might be Irish. There's all kinds of people here that are not documented. We need to count every one of them. We don't care where you're from, but those people need ambulances. Those people appear at emergency rooms. Those people go to school. We need to count them so that we can bring in the revenue that supports the services they need. And the last thing about this year's census, aside from it being online and by telephone, is that we've made a huge commitment to language. So you can get on the phone and speak to a person in any one of 12 languages. You can speak to a person in Polish, Haitian Creole, Spanish, Italian, German, Mandarin, and I can't remember all the rest of them. And all you have to do is talk to them. You don't even have to click a computer. You just pick up your phone and dial the 800 number on your letter. Once you've answered the census, you will not hear from us again. We're not going to bother you. That data is put behind the firewall, and starting March 20th, we'll know communities that have not responded and be dispatched as census employees to those areas to be sure a complete count happens. So our mission is data-driven. As we look at the map for Patterson, we see that most of this community has been identified as hard to count. That means that we expect that there are a lot of people in Patterson that don't want to be counted and won't be counted. And that's why I'm here to talk to you to be sure that we get the word out to everyone that this happens. In the last census, I looked at how active Patterson was, and you had about 15 organizations that were partnered with the Census Bureau to make this work. So if there's any other organization I can come and talk to help make Patterson successful in a complete count, I am there with you. You all have my card, and I'm happy to come. The other thing that citizens need to know is we're still hiring. We're paying $23 an hour for people who, if you don't answer your census online or by phone or by paper in April, we're going to come knock on your door, and we're looking for door knockers. We want to hire people locally who are known in the community, who are trusted voices, to go out and knock on the doors of their neighbors and friends. It's nights and weekends. You get paid once a week. Very flexible, $23 an hour. Doesn't impact your benefits. It's a great deal for anybody who needs a few extra dollars. So that's my 8-minute talk. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I always have a question. So what type of identification will they be wearing? Is it something that they'll...
It's a very clearly marked government ID. You can't miss it. It says Census Bureau. No one should open the door unless you see a badge that has the person's name and a gold, it says United States government. It looks just like the federal government would look. If they don't have one of those, you close the door.
Okay, and the car, it's their personal vehicles, so when you hire these,
Right, you get mileage.
the door knockers, okay, so the car, are they given something on the outside of the car, a magnetic identification?
Oh,
or
I
anything?
don't, I've never been asked that. I don't know the answer to that question.
I'm asking that because recently, someone up in the Putnam Lake area had said that there was a car driving around and, with the kids and the school buses and all. They were told that they were doing census, but they weren't going to doors. So would you expect that they would be out in a car counting, but not knocking on the doors?
Okay, what those people were doing was they were verifying addresses. Over the summer and in the early fall, we had LUCA, which is an acronym for essentially establishing correct addresses. So they were looking, driving up and down the street to be sure this address matched the building. Oh, this building no longer lists, let's take it off the list. Oh, that house only has one address but 3 satellite dishes. Must be 3 people, 3 different apartments in that building. That's what those people were doing.
Okay, so is there any, do you put out a notification
The
that you're
sheriff's
doing
department
that?
the sheriff's department is notified by
Okay.
national headquarters. And I actually spoke to the sheriff's department in October about that activity because there was a similar question in Brewster.
Yeah, because there's
That we gotta
been,
clear it up.
recent reports of vehicles following children and, and you get a little nervous when you have children that you see a car driving around your
We
neighborhood.
want everyone to be safe
So,
and calm.
yeah.
But I don't know that we're going to be putting, I'll have to ask and get back to you, Ms. Smith. I really honestly don't know. No one's ever asked me
Well,
that
it would be
question.
nice if the car was marked, so
It would
if,
be.
if
It
you
would be.
saw the car sitting at the bottom of your driveway and now they're getting out, everybody gets nervous, because I
Right,
know
of
we go
course.
out and get petitions and they're like,
Right.
and they see you walking up the driveway, you wanna know what's.
Ideally, we're not
going
going to have to
on.
knock on anybody's door.
Yeah,
If you don't want us to come to your house, go to the computer or pick up the phone and just call. But I'll get back to you because I really don't know the answer to that question.
yeah, well, if they're not, it would be nice if maybe they have until, between April 20th and 27th to go and get those magnets made and put them on the sides of the cars and provide them for the,
I can make the suggestion. I'm way down on the food chain.
okay.
But I'm glad to. Anything
Thank
else?
you.
Any other questions? Any member of the audience have any questions? Okay.
Well, thanks
you
very much for having
coming
me.
in.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Can I get a motion on the reports?
I would like to make a motion to approve the code compliance for February, code enforcement for February, dog control officer for February, ECI for February, the Patterson Fire Department fourth quarter of 2019, Patterson Recreation January through December 2019 and January 2020. And I'd also like to make a motion to approve the supervisor's report for January 2020. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion on the minutes?
So on the minutes, I'll make a motion that we approve the bid opening for highway materials of March 4th, 2020, the bid opening for the Town of Patterson seasonal lawn maintenance and landscaping bid of March 9th, and the Putt Lake Park District seasonal lawn maintenance and landscaping bid also of March 9th. The town board meeting minutes of February 12th and February 26th, 2020, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would someone like to audit the bills?
I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 4 dated February 28th, 2020 in the amount of $527,007.51. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mary,
I'm up, okay.
you're up.
So it looks like the seniors are planning a trip in September to go to the Westchester Broadway Theater. The estimated number of participants is 45 at $38 per person and a transportation bus of $870. So the whole net cost to the budget would be $1,537. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the trip to the Westchester Broadway Theater for the seniors and approve the amount of $1,537. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Highway bid awards. Okay, so we have the lowest bidders and like to approve a resolution for the acceptance of these annual bids. And the date of consideration of adoption is today, March 11th, 2020. and the town has received these bids in response to said advertisement, and by letter dated March 5th, 2020, the Highway Department has recommended that certain bids be accepted and awarded to the following bidders. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the acceptance of these bids and enter this resolution into the record as though read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And lastly, we have the seasonal lawn maintenance bid. Let me just get this. Okay. So we have a resolution here for the acceptance of the bid for the seasonal lawn maintenance. The town has advertised for bids for the provision of seasonal lawn maintenance and landscaping of town properties for the 2020 season, and we have received 5 bid proposals in response to our advertisement. I'd like to make a motion to accept the bid for Colonial Town Landscaping in the amount of $15,950 for the season and enter this resolution into the record as though read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's all I have.
Peter?
Thank you.
All right. First, I have the recreation requests. First request I have here is painting the rec center gym. So we had 3 bids. Lowest bid came out for $582 for Franson. So I'd like to make a motion. We have a requisition. We have a resolution here to approve the painting and giving the contract to Franson Landscapes. So I make the motion to approve the resolution for $5,000. Well, make it for $6,000 for Franson Landscapes. And I'd like to make a motion to approve that and enter the resolution as read into the minutes. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second, I have some programs for the rec center. Soccer, Little Cooks, Kids Cooks. There's a tag sale, adult baseball, venture camp, before care for venture camp, after care flag football, mini camp, and robotics. So I'd like to make a motion to approve all the fees as written. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next, I have a memo from Matt Chabarro about a new summer camp program. I'd like to add a new camp to our summer day camp lineup, Nature Adventure Camp at Patterson Rec. Campers will go on scavenger hunts, create landscape paintings, press flowers, and much more. This 4-day camp will be held June 29th to June 2nd from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the rec center. The camp will be run by rec staff and will coincide with our flag football camp. So the pricing for this camp will be, there's early bird pricing in effect up until April 30th, which would be $130 per child, $110 per sibling. There's no other discounts that apply. Standard pricing begins May 1st, which would be $160 per child and $140 per sibling. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the program and pricing as listed. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a couple of announcements for the rec center. So Patterson Rec Center presents Easter Egg Extravaganza, which is Saturday, April 11th. Doors open 10 a.m. sharp, rain or shine. Event for children 10 and younger. Come get in the Easter egg spirit with crafts and egg hunts and a chance to get a picture with the Easter Bunny. So bring your own basket. So
We're not going to tell you who the Easter Bunny is, right?
do you know who the Easter Bunny is?
I thought it was going to be you.
It's not going to be. Next, we have a couple of events in Putnam Lake, the Putnam Lake Park District. So there's a whole bunch here. They have an Easter egg hunt as well, Sunday, April 5th, at Memorial Field at 1 p.m. The rain date is April 11th. Easter egg hunt starts at 1:15 sharp. Then they have an ice cream social on Saturday, June 20th, at Warren Beach at 1:30. Bring your friends, the more the merrier. And then they have the Halloween window painting on Sunday, September 27th. Trunk or treat on Sunday, October 24th. And then the kids' New Year Eve party on Thursday, December 30th 31st. So I'd like to make a motion to approve all these events that they're going to be having this year in the Lake Park District. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Next, in Putnam Lake, had their second annual Lake View 4.2 mile run and walk. It's going to be on Saturday, May 9th. The 4.2 run starts at 9 a.m. sharp. The kids fun run starts at 8:30, rain or shine. This year's proceeds will go to Patterson's own Ryan Montana as he fights acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So it's a really good fundraiser for Ryan as well. So I'll hold up the. Thank you very much. And that is all I have. So, yeah, next we have is Veterans Memorial Park. Do we have anything on that? Or-
So, yes, we do. First, if you recall, the board had asked that the Park Advisory Board Chairman attend the town board meeting. So we have tonight the Chairman of the Veterans Memorial Park, Eric, who is here to talk to the board and a couple of issues that they have that he'd like to bring to our attention.
Hi, just have a few points. First of all, we'd like to use a product called Muckaway, which is a natural pond cleaner and muck remover that is cultured from common natural aquatic ecosystems to try to improve the clarity of the pond and possibly open the deeper end of the pond for swimming. The plan is to have to purchase the product and have the caretaker do the applications every 2 to 4 weeks. The second point is the board has decided to remove a member due to lack of attendance. We have reached out to the member on multiple occasions. He has expressed that he is going to attend but then doesn't, and we feel that he's had ample time to come and he just hasn't. So we'd like to free up his seat for somebody who would like to participate. And some things that we're planning on doing for the season. We're looking forward to adding yard games such as cornhole and can jam to sign out at the front gate. Park goers will sign out games from the lifeguard stationed at the gate. The idea being that they would return them upon exit. They will sign a sign-out sheet. And lastly, we just began discussing renovating the entrance, the front entrance to the park, to make it more inviting. So far, what we've talked about is pushing the main parking lot gate back 8 to 10 feet to make room to put in a raised planter bed and some kind of ornate, more appealing sign.
That would be nice.
That's what we're currently discussing for the coming months. And that's all I have.
Eric, do you know if pushing back that gate, it's the whole frontage on that road, correct? So
Yes.
Will you still be able to maintain the same number of parking spaces, do you believe?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so it's really the drive aisle, the center aisle portion that would just be compressing slightly?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was envisioning. And Rich, do you know the Muckaway product? Is that something that we're able to do without?
I do not know it that well. We can do it without permitting if that's what you were asking.
Curious, yeah.
I've looked into the product. It doesn't seem to, well, it doesn't raise any concerns to me. I did reach out to the individual who is providing the algicide treatment, who is somewhat of an expert in managing lakes. He didn't think that the product was worth the effort, but assured me that it would not affect any treatments he's going to be providing.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem trying it out. So, you know, from the town board's perspective, I would like to make a motion to approve the use of Muckaway for this season.
Okay.
for the Park Advisory Board.
Has it been used anywhere else locally, do you know?
I didn't see where it had. I don't know anybody that has.
I'm not aware.
And it's not an expensive product. from
It's
what
not.
I saw. It's pretty cheap.
Yeah,
and
it's a
we're
few
using our own
$100s.
People, yeah, so I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The second issue that Eric raised, I believe if we're going to remove a member from a board, we need to schedule a public hearing to do that. So I'd like to make a motion to schedule a public hearing for the next town board meeting for the removal of a member of the the Veterans Memorial Park Advisory Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
In the interim, I will reach out to that individual. I've tried in the past. I will try again to, maybe I can get his resignation and we can avoid doing that.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. The third thing I had for you, just to, keep you abreast of things that are going on. Everybody knows that we are making some improvements out at Veterans Memorial Park in regards to stormwater treatment to treat some of the water that was going into the lake and maybe cleaning it up before it gets to the lake. We had a contractor who started the work last fall. I was hoping he was going to get a little bit farther along last fall. He didn't. But the good news is with the winter we've had, he's been able to get in there earlier and get a majority of the remaining work done. So he's very close to being finished. However, that being said, it gives all appearances that he believes he's finished the work. I walked the site today with the design engineer as well as the engineer from the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation, who's helping fund the project. We all agree that the work that he's done in the final grading out there is not appropriate. As I was walking through the area, I actually reached down and pulled up this big long piece of metal that's been buried. So tomorrow he should be notified that he needs to come back in, change the grade. We also have some areas out there that he's left that it looks like we're gonna have some ponding issues. That's unacceptable. So we're gonna want him to kinda strip the grade down that he has out there, actually put topsoil down, rake it out, seed it properly so the job is done correctly, and to repair the bench that's out there, because the bench is not in good shape. It looks like it may be just an issue with some of the bolts being loose. We're not sure, but he didn't reset the bench properly, so he's got to do all that. So I am on that, and I will continue to monitor it and try to get it done as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else, anybody?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yes.
Mary?
Little sidebar. I was over at the park this weekend and I noticed the swing sets, if you could mention it to whoever maintains them. It looks like the hardware at the top or the swings, they either need to be replaced or oiled, or they just look a little compromised.
Okay.
So if you could talk to someone, they could.
Oh,
look at
absolutely,
that.
yes.
Thank you. Well, it wasn't holding me no. I was having a hard time now in the swing though. And that's it.
Oh.
That's all I have.
Eric, thank you.
Thank
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks very much.
Just a little side note, when is Club Court Park open for the season?
I believe it's April 1st. Usually we try to get things in then.
So,
Try to get the portable johns back.
Yeah. Because I don't think a lot of people don't realize that it's closed for the winter, and they complain when they get those nice days like we had on Sunday. I haven't heard any complaints, but I know they're probably going to be coming. So
Yeah, I haven't heard any complaints either.
we have someone who goes and checks the equipment and
Dennis does.
Dennis
I
spruces
saw
it up.
someone in the park today. I
Yeah.
went past there.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I have one more thing. So the town's been in need of a full-time senior typist / senior office assistant. We did canvass the list and we did an interview tonight. We interviewed a very capable, very talented person, I believe, that would actually fit right in, be a good fit. So I'd like to make a motion. We do have a resolution here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution to hire Cynthia Downs as a full-time senior typist / senior office assistant at the hourly rate of $16 per hour, subject to completion of a background check and so on. And So I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution and enter it into the record as read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sean?
That's all I have.
Okay. First item is our yearly resolution for our contract with Putnam County Real Property Tax Services, and this is for the preparation of the tentative assessment rolls and changes in property ownership that are necessary for taxing. And so the fees, Rich, you had mentioned, and noticing they charge basically per parcel, and you had said the copies, we were only gonna need one copy, so does that cut that amount?
It
Or
cuts
is it
that
just-
amount by, 2 cents per parcel.
So it's,
So what we want to do is
Okay.
we want to modify the resolution to include that we're only going to be asking
for
of the
one
rolls.
copy?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially, it'll cut down the cost by only requiring one physical copy of the assessment roll. So I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution for the contract as mentioned earlier for the calendar year 2020, with the one change the supervisor just mentioned of only requiring one actual printed assessment roll, and ask that this resolution be entered into the record as though read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is a letter. There's no one here from the Putt Lake Fire Department, but essentially there's a request from the Putt Lake Fire Department, this is just for discussion, to replace some aging equipment. They're looking at combining equipment, basically taking two pieces of apparatus and replacing it with one. As we all know, the price of the fire apparatus, those prices go up every year, and so anytime we can basically get better use out of a piece of equipment, things that can do multiple functions, that's going to help in the long run. It is replacing the first due engine and rescue engine, and they're going to repurpose the equipment from it, and they're looking at doing it's called a 4-guys rescue pumper. The amounts that they're looking at are in the neighborhood of $742,000. So we're going to have some ongoing conversation with the fire department to try to ensure that these purchases are planned appropriately, necessary, and done.
So there's
in the
two
best
parts to
interest.
this. Because of a policy that we adopted a couple of years ago, we need to approve the purchase of the truck, but also we need to have further conversations with the fire department. I've had some conversations. They have the money for a good portion of the truck, but they are going to need to finance probably about $250,000, $300,000. They're looking at financing, well, they were till the rates started to drop. So good news, bad news. They were looking at about a 5.5% rate to finance that. I think we can do better, so I'm continuing to work with the fire department to encourage them to take advantage of the town bonding capabilities. But we do need to approve this truck so that they can get moving on ordering it, because if they order it today, it still wouldn't be here for about 18 months.
Wow.
I'd like to compliment them by not only being fiscally responsible, and instead of buying 2 new trucks, they just have to buy 1, but it also helps with manpower. Instead of having, you get a call, instead of having to get 2 drivers for 2 different vehicles, 2 vehicles showing up on a scene, taking up space, you only have 1 vehicle, one set of, at a car crash, you're gonna need a rescue truck and an engine, so if you have the combination, you just have 1 driver, 1 crew, and you can take care of both, so I think that works out well.
Okay, so I will move that we approve the request as submitted by Putt Lake Fire Department, subject to, of course, the financing portion that the supervisor mentioned, for the Putt Lake Fire Department to proceed with acquiring the 4-guys rescue pumper truck and associated equipment that is needed for that, for a total cost of $742,000. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next, we have a new hire for the recycling center. This is a permit checker. This is positions that were interviewed by our recycling and, I always forget the term, recycling, garbage, and highway supervisor, and our town supervisor. And we have Gary Gee, who we are looking to hire as the permit checker at a rate of $15.75 per hour. We'd like to introduce the resolution appointing Mr. Gee to that position and enter it into the resolution, or enter the resolution into the record as though read. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Russ, any?
All good.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, first on my agenda is the recycling center audit response. I believe the town board has gotten the draft response from the controller. We have disputed quite a bit of the findings, you know. God bless Trish. Don't tell her she's not doing her job right. So she's actually sent a considerable amount of additional information to the auditors. They have somewhat modified that initial assessment, though they have not reversed their position, you know. And the one thing that I do believe that they're correct on, that we've not been doing as best as we could, even though we monitor what's going on and we supervise the people, and you know, everybody is doing a good job, and we do have we do try to hire the right people for the right position. We don't have a documented set of procedures, and that is one of their biggest complaints. Is they like to see all our policies written out, spelled out, so that they can just come in and take a look at them and make sure we're following them the way we're supposed to be. So the first part of responding to this recycling audit is that the town needs to provide an acknowledgement that we've received the report, and basically express our opinion on what our next steps are going to be. And the board has a letter in front of them. Has everybody had a chance to review it?
Yep.
Is everybody okay with this?
Yes.
Okay, and it basically just, it's a very short letter, one page, just acknowledging we received the report, and we will be responding to the report recommendations, because the next step in this process is we need to come up with an action plan. And I have that pretty well written out, but the big part of the action plan, as I alluded to before, is that the town needs to have a set of written policies for managing cash receipts. And cash receipts includes everything from cash to checks to credit cards and debit cards. And as part of this, I think I expressed this at the last meeting, I've been working on an overall fiscal policy for the town. This is going to be chapter 2, so we're kind of jumping the gun, but we need to deal with this so that we're meeting the requirements of the state controller and following their recommendations. And so, has everybody had a chance to take a look at this? Does anybody have any questions or comments, or do you want to move forward with it?
Let's move forward. Let's move forward. Charlie had mentioned a few things last time, and I know you looked into those. So
I did look into
yeah.
them. One of the modifications that you've got in this policy now, if you look at the very last page, what I've been working with Matt trying to find the best way to monitor the concession stand sales. We are opting for a cash register. That's what that last paragraph is alluding to. So we're going to put a cash register down there so that all cash sales coming out of the concession stands are monitored. We can track them, and then we can go back and compare them with food inventories.
Great.
Okay? All right. So, that being said, we have a resolution here adopting the policy and procedures for cash receipts. And I'd like to introduce that resolution and ask that it be entered into the minutes as read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That's one off the list. Okay, other business, right? Yes, we're down to, we've got executive session. I'll defer my executive session to the end of the meeting. And we are down to other business. Anyone have any other business? Okay, I have one little piece of other business that I think we need to talk about. It's something that's been circulating amongst all the supervisors down in Westchester, and that has to do with COVID-19, coronavirus, and some of the things we are doing here, just so everybody knows, we are being diligent. We would ask anybody that thinks they may have a really severe cold or respiratory condition that, you know, they avoid coming to town hall, call us. We will see what we can do for making other arrangements. We are wiping down and sanitizing the public areas more frequently, well, twice daily, I believe now, you know, to try to, you know, arrest the spread of germs. But one of the things that's been circulating is policies for people who are self-quarantined. And I know the supervisors in Westchester are trying to come up with a unified policy about when a person self-quarantines because they think they may have a respiratory issue, whether they can take their sick time and whether the town is just going to give them, you know, additional paid sick time for the 2 weeks they'll be out self-quarantined.
To be clear, Rich, this is different than a directed quarantine by some health authority, right?
Correct.
This is somebody saying, I feel for whatever reason
Yes.
that was potentially at risk,
Mhm.
or am not feeling well, but haven't been to a doctor and think I should stay home for 2 weeks.
Yes, but that also plays into the, you know, even if they are quarantined, you know, I don't know where this initially came from, but a lot of the supervisors are thinking they should give the employees the additional sick time, paid sick time.
So I think if it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if it's directed quarantine, I think there's state statute or rules within civil service law that speak specifically to quarantine and do require that.
Could you send them to me, or
Yeah.
could you investigate a little
I'll
bit?
send it to you right now.
Okay.
And, well, not right now, I'll send it to you in
Because I'm not
executive
aware,
session.
I'm not aware of that, yeah.
But I think the other part, you're talking about self-directing, you're talking about people who just decide on their own. I think that's a conversation that I can understand them for wanting to have and coming up with some policy. What we don't want people to do, obviously, is come to work sick, come into town hall when they're sick.
Sure.
You know, we want to try to protect everyone as much as possible,
But
especially
that's-
since this is still a developing,
Sure.
a very fluid type of a situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I bring it up to the town board, you know, because I think we need to talk about it, we need to have a policy. My position would be that that's why we provide sick time. They should be taking their sick time. If they don't have adequate sick time, then, you know, on a case-by-case basis, we can revisit that. Because certainly we don't want people coming in.
Right.
It may end up being a moot discussion, because I understand that the state legislatures are looking to impose a requirement that municipalities give people paid time off who want to self-quarantine. I think that is short-sighted on their part and only adds to the burden placed on our local taxpayers. But
You know, I think a good thing to consider along with this discussion is thinking about the jobs that many of our staff do and whether they could be doing those remotely if a situation arose. Can they work remotely from home? Can you set them up in certain aspects of the job to be still performing a function for the town and not just being at home, sitting on social media for 2 weeks?
So, yeah, there are quite a few people that actually could do their work from home. The problem with that, though, is then the public doesn't have access to them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And most of the people in this building are here to assist the public.
You're absolutely right. We're in the
So,
customer service
yes,
business. We're
absolutely.
a service industry, so I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's not an easy situation. Have any of the town supervisors you're talking to come up with any plans yet, or they're all kicking it around like
They're
we
all
are?
kicking it around.
Yeah.
And I'm talking mostly with the Westchester supervisors.
Okay.
So, any thoughts? You want to think about it and talk about it a week or
Yeah.
so?
Yeah, and I think also some of the conversations I heard too is, so if a town board member were to self-quarantine, provisions for video conferencing or, you know, calling in or some kind of arrangements. So that might something we want to think about. Not that any of us are going to get sick, but just, you know, just in case.
You never know, yeah.
I believe the rules are right now that we could do video conferencing as long
Yeah.
as we have a central location that's advertised where the public can go and witness it, which would be here, so, yeah, we could do that. All right, so we're gonna table this for further discussion and consideration. All right, public recognition. Does any member of the public wish to be recognized?
Lynn Andretta, Chairman of the Board of Assessment Review. We went last summer without a fifth board member, and I'm hoping that we're not going to go this summer without a fifth board member. It makes things difficult when all four of the members are, two of us have been here for over 40 years. One of us is extremely active between school and politics. One is a real estate person. So we know a lot of people in town. It only takes two of us to screw up the process. Because if we get a split vote, it has to go to Putnam Valley, which means an automatic denial, which I don't think is fair to the residents of this town.
Lynn, I agree with you, and we have a number of openings on various boards that I would like to see filled.
I know you're having a hard time. I need to bring it up.
And I appreciate that. And your board is very, very important to this town to have qualified people on it. You know, I mean, for the right person, if they don't have the qualifications, but I believe, we all believe that they have the capability of learning it, we would consider it. But it really needs somebody who knows a little bit about, real estate and home values and pricing. And so it's very, very difficult to find that person. I've been, you mentioned.
I would say 3 of the 4 board members did not start out with real estate knowledge.
Yep.
Or, housing prices or any of that. The person at the county does a fairly decent job of training. And this is not rocket science. I think it just takes a little bit of effort on the person's part to take a look at, what do you think houses are going for? Talk to the assessor and ask how many houses have sold in Patterson in the last year? What's going on in the real estate market? We also have access to the New York State Board. So, I think it's not really necessary for somebody to be either in the real estate business or having spent time studying this stuff beforehand. I think this is all stuff that can be learned. And it's probably the rules that we have to follow that is more important than a knowledge of real estate. Because if it's not legal for us to consider this information or this situation, then that's what you need to know, not, well, what would that house sell for? So, just bringing it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Major, last meeting you had asked a question about the septic maintenance law and the enforcement. Yeah.
And the appeal, I think, was the thing.
And the appeal. I did go back and take a look at it. It was only 3 pages long. It was not an extensive read. You had asked who actually does the appeal. And it is very clear on page 1 of the document that the appeal goes to the Director of Code Enforcement. But that appeal, again, it's, because of the law that it is, that appeal is, very limited to, a discussion about the amount of time they have to comply with the law. It's not, there's no way somebody can get a complete exemption from not having to inspect their septic system. So I did look. Anyone else? Can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Thank you.